Greetings. In this tutorial we're going to have a look at sample playback. A sample is basically a recorded sound saved as a WAV file. We're going to look at how to play a sample, how to change the playback rate of a sample, how to play sounds forwards or backwards, and how to make loops. We will also see how we can manipulate our samples using the accelerometer sensors, where we will control the playback rate and direction depending on how we have our pi positioned. This can be a lot of fun. Additionally, we're going to learn how to copy our own sound files into the HappyBrackets project, test them and download them into the Raspberry Pi. I'm just going to give you a taste of what's possible. You can always have a look at the examples provided under the HappyBrackets menu if you want an in-depth view of what you can do. First, create a HappyBrackets composition. We will call it My First Sample Player. Type Basic Sample Player. Remember to allow IntelliJ's Auto Suggest to make your code typing quicker. Just use the default parameters. We're going to be working with a sound file from the poet Roger Nyambije, who has kindly allowed us to include his poetry for HappyBrackets. Run the example in the simulator. Right-click in the editor and select Run from the pop-up menu. You should hear the sample start to play.
I let my pen bleed on the page, and sometimes it bleeds.
The first thing we will look at is looping. Looping is simply repeatedly playing between 2 points in a sample. You can choose to loop forward, which means that your sample will play from the start loop point to the end loop point and then jump back to the start loop point and start playing again. This continues until you stop or change the loop type. Likewise, you can loop backwards, where you will play backwards from the end point to the start point and then jump back to the end point. Another way is to alternate loop, where you play from the start point to the end point, and when you reach the end point, the sample player starts playing backwards until it reaches the start, where it will start playing forwards again. Set the sample player to loop forwards. In order to set the start and end points, we need to create a UGen object for each. We will use a glide object for both of them. Now assign the loop points to our sample player. Run the example.
I let my pen. I let my pen. I let my pen.
You can hear the sample plays for 2 seconds and then starts again.
I let my pen. I let my pen.
Change the loop type to backwards. Run the example. Now try alternating.
I let my pen. I let my pen.
Now we're going to have a look at changing the playback rate. Set the loop type back to forward and remove the start and end points. Create a glide object called playback rate and set its value to 2. Now configure the sample player so it will use the playback rate object for its playback rate. Run the example. You will notice that the audio is playing double the speed. Change the playback rate to -1. Let's have a little bit of fun and control our sample rate with the accelerometers. Let's make it so our X value will control the playback speed, and if we turn our device over, we will play in reverse. Add an accelerometer sensor by typing accelerometer sensor. Remember to use Auto Suggest. First, if our device is upside down, we want to play in reverse, so we'll use the multiplier of 1 for forward and -1 for reverse. We will map this to our Z value. What we will do is scale our accelerometer X value so we will get a value between 0 and 2. We will multiply this value by our multiplier. If it was -1, we will play in reverse, otherwise we'll play forward. Run it in the simulator to simulate this device.
I let my pen bleed on the page.
And sometimes it bleeds in rage of tears.
So I write. I write to flip arrows. So I write. I write to flex my self arrow.
Now download it to your device to have some fun with it.
I let my pen bleed on the page.
And sometimes it bleeds in rage.
Rage of tears ink. So I write.
Arrows.
Sometimes it bleeds in rage of sometimes it bleeds in rage. Sometimes it bleeds in rage.
And sometimes it bleeds in rage.
And sometimes it bleeds in rage of tears ink.
So I write.
You will probably want to use your own samples in a composition. I have some samples that I want to use in a soundscape. In order to use these, I need to copy them into the data audio folder. I'm going to create a folder called birds. I'll copy my sample into that folder. Change the sample name constant to be the same as that of your sound file. Note that you need to have the data audio as part of your file name. Now run the composition in the simulator to make sure that the sample plays. We now need to send the audio to our device. Now download your composition and run it inside the Pi. So that's it. We saw how easy it is to play samples and manipulate them in HappyBrackets. We played samples at different rates, both forwards and backwards. We performed loops, setting the start and end points. We ran our composition inside the device and controlled the samples with the accelerometers. Finally, we downloaded our own samples to the device and saw how we could use them.